So reading's the key. It's the key to opening the door for your life, really.
Right. And again, I'm sure this list is long as well, but can you and I'm going to get into questions about marijuana and abortion and where you are on those and where we can go and where you hope to go, but is there a specific goal, one specific that maybe stands out for you more than any other as you look forward to 2024?
Well, I think the most important thing that we strive to do every day is to remove barriers so that people can succeed and that they can live up to their full potential. It's not our job to tell them what they do, but we can play a role in making sure that those barriers are removed. A barrier is if a young person is not reading at grade level, that's a barrier. If they have a mental health problem that they can't get help for, that certainly is a barrier. If they have an addiction problem, that's a barrier as well. So removing those barriers really, I think, is the most important thing we can do for those individuals. But it's also important for the state. I mean, we're producing more jobs every single day than we have people to fill them. So making sure people, get the education that they need, and for some, it's going to career tech and getting into a trade or getting into advanced manufacturing. It may be going off to college. But those are the things that are so important. Career tech, for example, we just got $300 million because we saw to get out to the local career tech because we saw that there's a waiting list for them to get in. And when Fran and I traveled around and Lieutenant Governor traveled around, we found, there's waiting lists to get into the career tech. And I said, why? And they said, we don't have enough room. Or they might say, we don't have the equipment that we need. So we got to eliminate that barrier. For college, the graduating class, high school graduating class of 2024 will be the first class that has our new scholarship, which is if you're in the top 5% of your graduating class in high school and you go to college in Ohio, whether it's a private school or a public school, you're going to get $5,000 every year for 4 years, $20,000 in addition to the other money that you might be able to get as far as a scholarship. So it's removing these barriers, making it easier for people to do the things that they need to do.
Okay. Governor, let's move into the marijuana question. The House and the Senate ended their final session of the year without passing the legislation. The Senate passed HB 86, but the House didn't move on it. You, since the election was over, you urged them to move quickly. I heard it 10 times from you. Why? Why the urgency on your part, and then the disappointment that this hasn't gotten done?
Well, when you think about it, we've got a really weird situation, kind of a goofy situation in Ohio. You can possess marijuana, you can grow marijuana, you can consume marijuana, but you can't go buy it legally in Ohio. So. And that won't change until probably, under the current law, until 2024, maybe in as late as December. So it's a whole year away. So for a whole year, we have a situation that they can't buy it, but people think they can buy it legally. And so what we're starting to see already is these shops that just spring up. And they're selling marijuana, but it's illegal to sell it, and there's no guarantee what quality it is. There's no guarantee doesn't have pesticides in it. There's no guarantee of the quality. There's no guarantee that it doesn't have some other drug mixed into it. So the people who were for this, I wasn't for it, but the people that were for it said, look, we want to have it regulated like we regulate tobacco or regulate liquor. We want this regulated for the marijuana like we regulate liquor. And that's what we're trying to do. The other problem we have is we have a loophole in the law, and I pointed this out to the legislature. We need to fix it, and that is that there's a hemp derivative product, it's Delta 9, and it's being sold legally in Ohio, and it's being sold to kids. And they're going into filling gas stations, and they're buying this stuff, and it's hallucinogenic. And they get back in their car, or they go home and they're high, and there's no control over it. We need to, again, fill that loophole. So I have a sense of urgency, and I just urge the House, when they come back in January, to take this matter up, and we'll get it worked out. If we've got differences, we'll get those differences worked out, but we got to move.
Right. That hallucinogenic they've been selling in gas, that's been a problem for a long time that they have not curled. We've done stories on that multiple. You mentioned you mentioned where can you buy it? There really is no regulation. It feels like this was pushed into a vote maybe before that should have even been on the ballot. But also the revenue. Where's the revenue going, and how's the revenue being split, and who gets a license? Those are other issues that haven't been determined yet.
Those issues are certainly important. You know, everybody might have a different point of view about where that money goes. But even though I was certainly against this, now that we have it, there's a good place for that, at least some of that revenue to go, and that is to make sure that every police officer in the state of Ohio, every single year, has the best training that they can have. We have a great disparity today. If you are in a city and your police probably has gotten good training. If you're in a small town, small village, township, a small county, that county or that village probably doesn't have the money to send you off to get good training every single year. We need to remove that, and we need to have uniformity as far as the training. The best training, frankly, includes what we call scenario-based training, where you literally go into a situation, and the officer goes into a situation, and you know, they see things change, and they've got to make a decision: do I shoot here? Do I not shoot? How do I de-escalate this situation? These are all things that are learned over time, but you have to continue to keep those skill sets fresh. If we can use some of this marijuana money to provide consistent training every year, we're going to save lives. We're not going to have some of the situations that we've had where we look up and say, well, how in the world did that happen?
Yeah. You've taken some criticism for wanting some of that tax money to go to police training. That doesn't affect how you feel about where you want that money to go.
No, I mean, look, I think our obligation to the people of Ohio is to provide marijuana. They voted for it. I think 57% of the people wanted it, but you know, I don't know that people were really that focused on how that money was going to get spent. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a legitimate public policy debate that we can have with the House, we can have with the Senate. Let's figure this out, how best we can spend this money, and you know, to do it in a way that really helps the most people.
You've also said you've been, as far as the abortion issue goes, you're willing to accept the will of the people at the ballot box, but you still believe that there's room for the abortion issue to evolve. How so? What do you mean by that?
I think that there's no issue that's ever doesn't evolve. Everything evolves. People's feelings continue to evolve. I think it's important for us to do a couple things while respecting what the people voted for. One is we've had guardrails around abortion for a number of years, way back when Roe v. Wade was still in effect. For example, parental notification, making sure if a 16-year-old is going to have an abortion that you have parents involved in that decision. In some states, we've seen an effort to get rid of some of these guardrails, and I think that would be a mistake. We can still have these guardrails that courts have already held to be constitutional. I think the other thing we have to do is continue efforts to make sure that someone is pregnant, a woman is pregnant in a difficult circumstances because of poverty, because of drugs, because she's in an abusive situation, whatever it is, that we have help for her. And so that she can make that decision, her decision is that she wants to keep that child. Let's make it so that it's easier to do, and so that she will think that that is a real option. So we have a home visiting program. We've doubled that program since I became governor, is to reach out to someone who, you know, we hope early in the pregnancy, maybe doesn't have the medical care for whatever reason, maybe has other problems, and try to make sure that she gets the help that she needs, and then after the child's born, to continue that help.
Okay. I want to ask you about HB 68 sitting on your desk right now. Would make it illegal for healthcare professionals to provide gender care, puberty blockers, and hormone therapy to trans youth. It would also prohibit transgender athletes from participating in girls' sports. Are you going to sign it?
I'm doing everything I can to get all the information that I need to make a good decision on this. I've not made a decision yet. I'm going to continue to work on this. I'll have a decision next week, and I will certainly announce that. But, you know, if you think about it, this impacts a relatively small number of young people in the state of Ohio. But for those people, for their families, for those children and their families, this is very, very important. Many times they're going through, for many reasons, a difficult situation, and making sure that we are supportive and that we help them is vitally important. The one thing that's clear, and I think we need to say this, is that both sides of this argument, and as you know, very diverse points of view and very vehement on both sides. I think people who are for this bill, I think people who are against this bill, both of those groups are doing it because they think this is best for kids in the state. So they all have the best interests of children in mind, and of course that's one of the reasons it makes it harder to try to sort out what the facts are. So I've gone to children's hospitals to be briefed on how they handle this, talked to the doctors, but I've also talked to parents. I've talked to parents who tell me that they urgently need this, that this has saved their child's life. But I also have talked to some parents who say, look, our experience was not a good experience at all, and they've explained to me why that was not a good experience. So the next few days, I'm going to continue to read and to look at this issue and try to make it. I will make a decision next week.
Okay, thank you, Governor. We just heard today that $3.3 million for businesses in East Palestine, forgivable loans as long as that money is used in 5 or 6 different categories, most basically helping employees in those businesses and those places to stay open. Why was this the right time to do this, and why is this important for the people in East Palestine? It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but this community has been really hard hit. Our first obligation was to make sure that it was cleaned up, and also at the same time, as you know, we started measuring the air, testing the air, testing the water. We're going to continue to do those things. But I think when you talk to people in East Palestine, Fran and I were over there, I think about 2 weeks ago. We've been over there many, many times. They want to move on, but they know that for their village to move, economic development, jobs are important. And so by giving assistance to businesses, small businesses in the community, giving them these forgivable loans, we think is going to make a big difference in how this community really recovers.
Do you believe that? Do you believe this community can recover?
Absolutely. These people are resilient, they're tough, they're strong. They're going to move forward. I mean, we still have people obviously who are concerned about, what's going to be my health situation in 10 years, or my child's in 10 years, or 15 years, or 20 years. And so we're subsidizing a clinic that has been put in town. That's going to, again, healthcare is very, very important. People have to have jobs, and economic development, you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. And so we want East Palestine to really move forward, and we think that this money infused in the community at this point will make a big difference.
Governor, you know this, we're dealing with an unprecedented amount of violence in the city of Cleveland. In the summer, there was the Surge initiative. State troopers were sent to Cleveland. There were over 200 felony arrests, over 100 guns were seized, more than that number. That's the last number I have. There's been calls for that to continue. It was so successful. There's still a lot of work to be done, but is that something that we can possibly continue to see in the city of Cleveland to help?
Absolutely. When the mayor wants us to do this, and the community wants us to do this, and the police department, we certainly will come back. We're there to help the police department. We're not there to take over their job, but we can bring in, as we've done, a helicopter, which gives some great visibility. But at the same time, we put people on the street to back up the police, and there are things that we can do. We also bring in not only the Highway Patrol, but every community, particularly every large community, has people on parole, and so we can bring our parole officers in to check on those people, see if they've got guns. They're not allowed to have guns, and and to really bring some focus there. We also bring in our liquor agents, and they can go into these bars and places, and they're really good. They can pretty much spot someone who's walking in there with a gun, and so these are things that we can do that makes a difference for the community. We've
been startled by the number of this violence, but we've been startled by the young people that are involved in the gun violence. We've seen a surge in the city of Cleveland on gun violence, young person on young person. We had a shooting in right after Public Square, that wonderful event they had there involving young people. We've got a crisis in this state with violence and young people, don't we?
We have a crisis in regard to violence, and what police tell me, not just in Cleveland, but in cities throughout the state, that we're seeing this occur among younger and younger people, that you're seeing 12-year-olds with guns, and you're seeing violence committed by very, very much younger kids than we would have expected even 5 years ago. Right. So, look, there's no one easy solution. I think we kind of know the formula, and that is we have to reach these kids at a younger age. We have to give them hope. You give them hope by, frankly, helping them get the tools that they need so that they can see that there's another life out there and that there is hope, and they're on a different pathway than a pathway of being involved in gangs or being involved in other things where they've got guns. But this is not something that there's one easy answer. It's a lot of different things. I mean, one of the things that we've supported, from a financial point of view, is our boys' club and girls' clubs. I mean, that's the type thing to get kids involved in something else and give them a home, give them a place where they can connect with other kids and connect with adults.
The other issue I think that's connected to this is the issue of mental health, and I know that you have worked with federal money dedicated to enhancing paid internships and scholarships for people who are going into those fields, who in turn can maybe help some of our younger people. We have a problem with, we don't have enough school counselors, we don't have enough psychiatrists and psychologists, and you've advocated for paid internships and scholarships, and I know some federal money came involved. And I believe that was in May of 2022. Where are we right now with that process? Is it working? Are we seeing any results?
Look, if you look at our mental health problem, I'll go back to what President Kennedy said 60 years ago. He signed what was called the Community Mental Health Act. And that act, and the president promised that we would have good care, mental health care in every single community, no matter where you live. We've not lived up to that in Ohio, and we've not lived up to it across the country. We have to do that. So we've been investing federal money, but we've also been investing state money, thanks to the General Assembly, in that. So the first thing I did after becoming governor, the budget I presented, we started sending money to the local schools to deal with mental health challenges. But one of the problems is, whether it's a school or whether it is another community group, sometimes there's just not enough mental health professionals. And so we went to the mental health professionals and we said, look, what's stopping people from going into this profession? And one of the things they told us is that profession uniquely requires people to go work and do internships, and many times these internships don't pay anything. And so that, again, is a barrier. People look at that and say, well, no, I can't afford to do that. I can't afford 4 months or whatever it is to be off and not be making any money. So we thought, well, let's start paying people when they go provide money as they go through these internships. So we don't have yet the numbers to show, but we clearly think that this is going to make a difference in the long run.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Have we seen any progress?
We're still waiting. We think we are, but we don't have the hard numbers yet.
Right. The other thing we've seen a surge of in our state since specifically, well, it's been a 5-year trend from what I found, and then even more specifically, unfortunately, since the war in Israel, is the increase in hate crimes that we've seen, especially at this point against our Jewish friends. We had one in Canton where a teen posted that he had a plan to shoot up a synagogue. How troubling is this for you?
The hate that we are seeing is very, very troubling. Ohio as you know, is not immune from this. We're seeing some of this in the state of Ohio. So I think it's important for us to denounce hate. I think it's important for anybody in responsibility to do everything they can to keep that from occurring if it's somehow within their jurisdiction. Our colleges, I think, have a unique opportunity. Frankly, colleges should be a place where people can try out different ideas. It should be the place where you kind of get the smorgasbord of all kinds of different ideas. That's what we want in our colleges. But what we don't want is the hate. So it's one thing to debate American foreign policy towards the Middle East and say, I don't like it or I like it. That's fine. What's not fine is, for anti-Semitic comments to be made. It's not helpful, and it's not helpful. We're also seeing it in the Islamic community, the Muslim community, where people are, again, evidencing hate towards that group just because someone's religion. So we have to denounce it on no matter where we find it.
Right. Is there something on a state level that can be done? Are you talking with the universities? Because a lot of universities we've seen nationally, Harvard have had incredible criticism based on how some people feel the rhetoric on that college campus goes. What can you do on a state level?
Yeah, look, I talked particularly to the 14 public presidents, public universities. I talked to them as recently, I think it's 2 weeks ago, a Zoom call that was specifically focused on that. The other thing that we have done with the help of the General Assembly is provide money for our synagogues if they need help in literally protecting, as the experts would say, you harden the place more, which may be surveillance cameras, it may be other things. We're making that money available to any church that thinks that they have some kind of problem in that area. Mm-hmm. So we can't do everything. The community has to be vigilant. The community has to take action themselves, but we can help. Mm-hmm.
Governor, you were at the Browns game last week with the commissioner. We understand you had a couple moments with him. We've done multiple stories on the Lakefront development in Cleveland and what Mayor Bibb is trying to accomplish there with a land bridge from the mall down to the stadium, and then that huge space north of the stadium to develop that. How involved are you in that process? And then also, has there been any stadium talk about what could change? I don't think Mr. Haslam wants to move, but I think he's looking for a big upgrade on that stadium. Where are you involved in the Lakefront development with the mayor, and even did you speak with the commissioner about that at all?
So I spoke with the commissioner at that meeting. Was my wife Fran and Jimmy and Dee Haslam were certainly both there. We were at the Browns game that morning before the game started. So we talked about a lot of different things. I think that one of the things that you're seeing across the state, and I think it's a really good thing, is a new realization of the importance of water. That might be lakefront, that might be riverfront, and I think we've sort of ignored sometimes the value of that water. We've cut the water off from people by roads. We did this in the 60s and 70s. We've done other things. So I think every community is sort of looking at this. How do I improve the quality of life? How do we improve tourism? Let's take this valuable piece of property and figure out how we best can use it. So that's going on. I think that's a very, very, very positive thing. One of the things that my old friend George Voinovich used to tell me when I was his lieutenant governor, and I would hear him say to communities, is you need to figure out among yourselves what your priorities are. And figuring out what is that development downtown that you want. What are you going to do with with the lakefront? In this case, the lakefront. What are you going to do with that? Where does a big asset of the community is the Cleveland Browns? Where do they fit into all of that? Mm-hmm. But it's incumbent upon the community first to kind of come together and figure out exactly where they want to go. Now, we know that people are always looking for help to build stadiums or to repair stadiums, and we are at a kind of interesting time in Ohio history because most of our major stadiums now are about the same age. And they're either in a point where you have to upgrade them, you know, basically like you would a house, put the roof back on, or do this and do that. You either got to do that, or you know, you can go talk about building a new one. So they're all at that stage. Whether you're at the old Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, or you know, whether you're in Cleveland or wherever you are. It's true with baseball. It's true with football. So you know, we're at the point where we're seeing this discussion. So what the state did in regard to the Guardians, you know, we put in, I think it was $30 million to help them and help the community make the repairs and make the upgrades that were needed after that ballpark had been there, what, a couple decades?
Yeah,
so,
since '94.
Yeah.
Since '94, we've done multiple stories on you've heard the term the blue economy, a water-based economy, which is so important to this state. A lot of people feel Intel ended up in central Ohio because there's water. The water that isn't available, or it is available, but it's very expensive out west. So a water-based economy, and that's kind of Cleveland's hopes in building up the lakefront and figuring out a way to connect the city on a cliff to the lakefront down below. Is a lakefront development key specifically for the future of Cleveland, as the mayor says, making Cleveland a vibrant city for the future?
I don't think you can look at the future of Cleveland without recognizing what the assets are. And certainly one of the assets is the whole lakefront. I mean, this is a huge asset. And I think what every city is doing, I think what the mayor is doing, is trying to figure out exactly, you know, how do we utilize this the best. You know, we all want more space. We want places where people can go walk along the waterfront, walk along the river, or walk, in this case, along the lake. But you also, to be economically viable, you also have to have some development in there. You have to have some houses. You have to have other things. So it's, you know, all of these things coming together. But figuring that out is not the job of the governor. That's not the governor's job. It's the local community's job to come together and figure out, you know, what is it going to take for us to utilize this great asset that we have. The other part of water, of course, as you just pointed out, is it's essential to our economic growth. Right. And it's an asset that we have, and frankly, in Southwest United States, they don't have. They got a real water problem. So we have to preserve that water. That's why, you know, we came up with what we call H2 Ohio, which is this program to keep Lake Erie in good shape. We never want to be in a situation where people who draw their drinking water from the lake can't have drinking water. That happened in Toledo a few years ago. So we preserve that water for drinking water. We preserve it for economic development, but we also preserve it, frankly, because it's a great recreation point. You know, we all love to be out on Lake Erie. Many of us love to go fishing there.
Right. COVID.
So we are going to actually stop the interview here for this. Of course, we'll have the full interview available on our website at cleveland19.com. There's only 50 seconds left. But we are going to stop this because our 7:30 newscast starts over on the CW, so we'll see you there. For now, I'm Jeff Slauson, 19 News. Have a great night. Much more to come, both on air and online.